Thank you, Eric. Can everyone hear me okay? Pretty good? Thumbs up in the back? Good, okay. And I'm hoping this works. So before I start, I'm just going to leave you with a couple numbers. 7 minutes, 2 hours, 870 million, 1.5 billion. Those are nice numbers. I'll take the last one, I'll put it in my bank. That'd be a good number to have. So remember those numbers. So the agenda I want to touch on today is really, about Pfizer, a little bit about Pfizer, a little plug. You might have heard of us before, maybe, hopefully. The challenge, really securing the factory. That's what my new role is, my new gift from Pfizer is, the program I'm leading up at Pfizer. And as well, how we're doing that. And what are the objectives we're trying to strive for as part of the program. And then we're really, what we're trying to solve. And what we're trying to solve is manufacturing security and how we're going about that. And it really leads in. Dan was an excellent speaker before me because you set the stage for what we're trying to do in this program. So thank you, Dan. You didn't know it, but you set the stage. Okay, so about Pfizer. Pfizer is a fairly big company in the globe, about 250 billion market cap. It does fairly well. It's a very profitable company, and we serve the greater public around the globe. So those numbers off on the right of this slide, or your left, 74 billion doses of medicine. That's a lot of medicine. 67 billion of pills or capsules. Some of you probably take them. I take them, right? Statins, Lipitor. It's a good thing. Keeps my cholesterol in check. 2 billion sterile injectables. Pfizer's the global leader in sterile injectables by far. 135 million vaccines. So what this means, this is all 1 year. And each year it grows. That's the supply to the world to keep them healthy. People rely on those medicines to stay alive. So the stake to Pfizer is, I gave you the number of 1.5 billion. The NotPetya attack on Merck was 870 million. The briefing in Pfizer to our board, if that happened in Pfizer, was 1.5. So it's a financial risk, but it's much more than a financial impact. That is not what's driving this program. It's really about ensuring the supply chain of our products get to the hospitals, get to the people each and every day. And securing the manufacturing might is very important. The Merck example I talked about, 870 million financial. The 2-month number I gave, 2 months of plant out, solid, not producing. Do you believe that the supply chain in the leaned out Amazon way of doing things has a supply that will last for 2 months? Think again, think again. So what supplies the hospitals? There is not a 2-month supply. There was a Fortune article on Pfizer last year, and there was a number in there, and it wasn't 2 months. Supply chain's 2 weeks. So an impact to some of our major plants would be pretty darn catastrophic to the US healthcare system. So this program is about ensuring that Pfizer does supply. And so I don't really have to give that message around the risk. Dan did a great job leading into that risk. It's there, it's prevalent. The risk is very real. It showed up 3 years ago for the pharmaceutical. It's collateral damage to the pharmaceuticals around the globe. The NotPetya, the WannaCry, and others that have been showing themselves. This is just NotPetya, just one malware attack developed by a nation state, picking on their friends next door called Ukraine, and trying to give them grief each and every year, which they've been doing for every year. This was their third gift to Ukraine, and had major impact. But it's more the collateral damage to the whole world. So the one on the Maersk one is an interesting one. Ghana, I should have mentioned Ghana. What's significant about Ghana? That's where Maersk had a domain controller, where they had a power outage the week before. And that was a goddamn blessing, because without that domain controller, the global supply of products from that company would have been shut down. They found that domain controller after a week and a half. If they hadn't found that, they would have rebuilt their whole domain structure, whole asset base from scratch. That would never happened overnight. That would have been months and months and months and months. So the impact is very real. How do we protect from that? Really, the objectives of the program that I'm driving are pretty simple. There's only 6 of them. It's pretty small, it's pretty simple. We're really trying to mitigate those unpatchable systems. When I say about unpatchable, those are assets that, we have a difficult time. Either the vendor doesn't say, hey, take your Windows XP system and just upgrade it. The vendor will go, hey, you do that, you own it. We're not supporting it. Have a good day. But when it breaks or it has a problem, don't call us. That makes it a little difficult to do that upgrade. We hesitate. And so the program is really trying to address that, either by wrapping or making it difficult to get to those unpatchable systems, but trying to secure it as best we can. The second item that we're working hard on is really get the visibility to our industrial control systems and the assets within. And that really helps us to get that visibility, which we can't see today, or really didn't have the need for it. There was not a cost driver to have a very close day-to-day awareness of every single asset we had in the control system layer at our production plants. Then we also need to really be effective is a daily update of what those assets are, because they do change. Every plant is a changing, always dynamic place. So you do a manual inventory, that's great. That's great for stock system. That's terrible for trying to keep tabs on really what is truly happening. Because next week, a whole new suite might come up in a plant, or something got swapped out, swapped in. So you're working on old data. To really be protective, you can't work on old data. You need current data. The next one is really trying to protect that manufacturing platform and applications to the known. Known is good. That's antivirus. That's the known stuff. But it's really the unknown. How do you protect? And I use the word protect. How do you protect? How do you change the game? Do we follow the IT way of doing things? Patch away like crazy? Is that an effective way to operate? Or is there a better way? Can you change the game? Can you change the whole fundamental process, especially in the OT world? So that's something to think about. And I think we have uncovered something that will enable us to protect, truly protect. Next is limit the traffic and the paths down into that manufacturing floor systems. Air gapping is ideal. Air gapping is the ultimate nirvana, but then your data, you've cut off all the cords of data. You need data to run your plants, to optimize, to improve, to just physically operate the plant well. So, but limiting that traffic to the critical few that are business critical, not just because I want to get down there or I'd like to get down there, I need to get down there. And the last one is a good one. I think Tammy mentioned that. So there was a presentation earlier this week. Manufacturing ICS systems in the OT layer, the bottom layer on the floor, will not have direct connections to the internet. So reduce those pipes, turn off the pipes that are open down, from the internet down in to your factory floor. Shodan is a great tool. When Pfizer assets show up on Shodan, guess who calls us? And it's not a good call. All right? So we're highly regulated. We're sort of like the nuclear in some respects. We get calls. Hey, your systems are showing up on the internet. Your PLCs from a certain vendor are up there. I'm like, really? That's not a great call. So manufacturing structure at Pfizer today is a layered structure for most of the plants, but we did have near the bottom layer, we were following good ISA practices. We were on those committees over the years, 80s, 90s were good years. And really that layered architecture from ISA was a 90s technology, late 90s structure, fairly effective. The issue though is, what we found is we leveraged the IT tools as much as we could, but we commingled our ICS assets with those IT tools. And we've learned that you really need to migrate the IT, that IT does well, and the OT assets, and segment them. By segmenting them, that really narrows the path and the attack vector. That allows people, and it adds, again, additional defense and depth, but it really narrows that attack vector just to those critical few business functions that are needed to operate the plant floor systems. Still has the connections to provide data up or production demand down into the control environment, but you still limit. And I'll call it the firewall rules that go through. Our firewall rules, and somebody asks, how many rule sets are you working with? They're typically 10 to 20, and that is it. It's not the hundreds and thousands that are in your traditional IT firewalls. It's a very few set of rules, and a very few point of this server talks to that server, and that's it. So the overall program has basically 7 work streams that we embarked on. They're all in parallel. And the reason why they're all in parallel is because we're working fairly quickly. And we're making a lot of good progress. We have the first and foremost is the people side of it all. Dan, you're correct. That is the base. The organizational aspects, they come first, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the areas we're working on. We're training. We're building up the skills. We're building a security champion matrix across all our plant sites. We're connecting that to the corporation and our SOC, and we're enabling, the structure and policies that are necessary to govern well. So that's the first side of, you could say the programs aspect. In addition, so I'm an engineer, chemical engineer of training, electrical as well, business as well, so a few degrees. But putting them all together, technical is part of the equation as too. Here at the show, there are a lot of great tools out there. Right next door, there's many companies. They're all very good, actually. They're all very good. Pick one. Just pick one. Work with them. Waiting for the, I'll call it nirvana, or ultimate secret, you're waiting too long. In Pfizer, every day is a risk. So every day this program isn't done is a problem. So trying to save a little money or trying to pick something a little better, pick one, work with them, and improve your asset base. So around the technology, we have preventative detective controls, and we have this wonderful thing called asset discovery and threat detection, automated asset discovery and threat detection. That's a tool. So if you're in the OT world, that's where I come from, the OT world. That's a wonderful thing. If I had a tool that would find every asset and I didn't have to walk around and get all the dirty details, that's a lot of, I'd rather be optimizing the process instead of, I call it maintenance function, getting data out of systems just to log it down, keep track on things. I'd rather have a tool do it for me. And then again, vulnerability management, or threat detection, threat management. So the overall program, this is our timeline we're working against, very short and sweet. We started in about this time last year, actually. We went through a couple pilots, a piloting phase, both paper-based and actual, lab-based environments, kicking the tires on the tools, finding out what works well, what doesn't, and laying a structure in place. One thing we knew we needed absolutely, we needed to segment our IT and OT networks. That one was a no-brainer. That was done in a day, that decision. And we moved forward. And we went off to the sites that had the biggest, business risk to the corporation, either their business risk or supply chain risk. And we tackled that and completed that in 2018. That was done in 6 months. So the program really kicked off in the second quarter is when we started and formed the team. Right now the team's grown a little bit, about 60 full-time people. 3 are Pfizer, that's it. The rest are valued consultants, vendors, that are doing a great job as part of the team. So we're now into 2019. We have another 2 years. We're going to complete our industrial firewall. So I'm talking 60 sites, 60 live, living, breathing, running manufacturing sites, running 24/7. We're going to do it. We're doing it. So some say that's a high wire act, no safety net. That's correct. So you learn how to play on the high wire act and you do it well. You don't get burned. You trust your vendors to deliver, and hopefully you have no risk. The other is monitoring the network. So if you can actually monitor the traffic and see what's there before, there's a period of time when people are messing around. It's called recon. Figuring out what you got, where you are, how you're structured. That takes a bit of time. If you can see the traffic while that's happening, then you can actually be smart. And then you can know, you can react, you can plan, you can even let them look a little bit and see what they're after before they do something bad. The other is, again, OT hardening. The OT world is a great place. Why? It's stable. It doesn't change. If you put your network segmentation in place, you have that. The OT world, its traffic doesn't change. What talks to what? What controller talks to this controller? The traffic that doesn't really change. So if something starts talking while you're in production against your baseline, that's something to look at. Why? And the last but not least, there's one more vector. 90% of all issues do come down through your IT network down to your control environments. That's the data. That's the statistics. There's still 10% or so. In Pfizer, there's 0 through one of the vectors, which is called, cell modems and that kind of connection. My poor friends in AT&T that are here, I'm sorry, we don't use those technologies. We don't allow it. We do allow USB devices, but those USB devices, we have to put an extra layer of security, and there are tools. There's one tool here at the show around USB devices, a good vendor and a good tool. So the technology does exist, and that's a great thing. Here's the key point. If you're going to invest in something, segment your networks and invest a little bit more in one other tool, at least. Make the OT layer visible. You got to be able to see it. IT has always seen the IT systems and computers for years and years and years, always had the tools. In the OT layer, we didn't worry about it. We didn't have to, right? We didn't have to. We're never attacked by anything. Well, we are now. We're actually front and center on the radar screen. So now if you have a tool, you see your networks, you see your assets, you see your data flows, you see the IT data flows, you can turn that filter on, just show me IT, just show me the OT protocols. You can see what's talking to what. That's unbelievable. We used to have to map this out in, wonderful charts and whatnot, logical flow maps that were always wrong, but at least you had a baseline to sort of start from. But now you get a real view of really what's talking to what. That's great. That's impressive. That's actually a live, real example, right, from one of our plants. Just a small working cell. And it tells you things. So we were playing around with it a little bit. We throw a device on there. You throw another PLC on the network. The instant you connect it, it detects. 2 seconds later, boom, up you come. So there's nothing that goes invisible. Even those temporary things. I used to be in maintenance for a while for a very large film company called Eastman Kodak. I used to pull my hair out, finding out, like at night I'd get a call. It's like, hey, something happened. I'm like, and then the next day I come in, what's going on, guys? I'm like, oh, it's all perfect. Yeah, something happened. I didn't have the record, but something happened. But it's perfectly working now. So you can start to see, you'll have that audit trail. You have the complete record of what's happening. So if somebody plugs something in, changes the wire around, whatever, you see it, you know it. It's a little bit of Big Brother, but actually Big Brother is good. What does Big Brother do? It ensures you operate your plant well. Because people know very quickly, and they change their culture and behavior based on knowing somebody actually could watch me, could actually see what I'm doing. They think, yeah, oh, let me think about that a little more before I do something. And that's actually a good thing. There's additional benefits from that. But again, having this kind of a tool gives you those insights and tells you what to work on. Instead of you scrambling and checking, ICS cert for, I got this device, and searching and sorting, it tells you what to work on. That will take out 80% of your effort. So that gives you an extra 80% of your time to be used for optimization, for saving money in your company. Time is invaluable. The OT assets in your company are few and far between, and there's not many coming to replace them. So use them wisely. So the overall solution we have underway, we have a partner. We selected Rockwell Automation as our partner. And big part of it is the global reach of Rockwell. They happen to be where every one of our plants are around the globe, and we're in a lot of countries and a lot of places around the world. And the depth of expertise has been proven out with other firms, other companies they've supported. And so we're using them, leveraging pretty heavily. I have a friend here, Thomas House from Rockwell. He hates my calls sometimes. I'm very nice, and I'm very, very direct. Thomas can agree. The other is having a structured approach. We have a PMO office, and we have 3 regional PMs, and those PMs and tasks and goals to have a close touch with every one of those plants in those regions, in their time zones, so that, communications, the most important part of all this with any big program of this nature is communications. Has to be effective, has to be timely, and it has to be in close touch and close partnership and trust. Without that, you're going to have a very difficult time. And again, I said before, segmenting the IT and OT networks is a very good thing. It actually clears up the mud. There's mud. And the mud is IT and OT overlapping creates a lot of stern and ill will, really. If you actually clearly define, you got this role in this scope, and OT's got its role in this scope, I trust you, you trust me, here's our boundary, this is how we work together, excellent. Again, it's clear roles and responsibilities. Once you have that, you can make a lot of headway and really quickly. Versus infighting. That never happens in any company, right? IT and OT infighting, that never happens. So, last bullets. Separate, we learn from our Merck friends. What happened with NotPetya? What did they exploit in the IT world? IT has some wonderful tools. SCCM, it's a great tool. What does it allow you to do? It allows you to deploy very quickly. Remember that number I gave you a while ago, 7 minutes. How long did it take to get Maersk totally wiped out? 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Merck, how long did it take Merck to be completely wiped out? I'm talking every asset. 2 hours, done, wiped. By the time you figure out you got a problem, you're toast. That's too late. So segmenting your AD domains, having a local AD for OT is not a bad thing. There are tools that help you, solve that problem of managing, a domain. A domain is not a, magical thing. It takes a little bit of expertise and skill, but there are tools that really help you aid it and do the proper audit trailing on the assets, the accounts, and what's enabled. And last but not least, 2 last points. Rockwell Automation really helped us with the overall the heavy lift on the technology. They're doing quite a bit of the, including the logistics. So that's in there as well. So we're placing 1-1 orders, and Rockwell's delivering around the globe. That makes my life easy. Makes Rockwell's life not so easy, but makes my life easier. And last but not least, really having a partner working with you. A security, consulting firm that's day in, day out, that's trusted, that you've selected, adds a lot of value. And that's about it. Okay? Thank you.